All right, everybody. We've got a plane to catch to Boston, so I'll get to it quick. First off, obviously want to thank Jake, Chad, Magnus Hellberg, Ty Smith for their contributions to the Penguins. I don't think words will be enough. I haven't been here with Jake for as long as the folks in the room have, and the folks in our facility have been, but obviously the impact he's made has been immense. Tremendous competitor, excellent hockey player, excellent person, great member of the community. We could stand up here forever and talk about Jake, especially those who have been here longest, and it's a tough decision and a difficult one to make. And the others have been excellent people in my interactions with them as well. So, it's those are tough decisions and tough calls, but we have to do what we feel is best for the current and long-term of the organization. So I'll open it up to your all questions rather than listen to me talk. I'm sure you have a lot to ask, so fire away.
Kyle, you only moved 2 guys off your major league roster.
Yep.
Did you anticipate being more active than that? And if so, why weren't you?
It's always tough going into the deadline, Dave. I think the players that were expiring, I thought those would be the ones that would are most common to go. The ones with term, especially in the flatter cap market, are a little tougher. And then the secondary part is the decision making of what's the value today at the trade deadline versus the summer with the salary cap going up versus next year at the trade deadline if you're players with term that other teams are interested in. So in every decision with every player that we made was what's the expected value today versus the future, juxtaposed against what is their value to our team now and then and moving into next season. So those are decisions that we made, obviously, with Jake and Chad off the roster, and then with Magnus Hellberg from the minor league group as a goaltender.
Kyle, with that in mind, is roster transformation something you're going to be busy with in the summer? Do you expect to have a lot more changes with this team?
Well, I think we need to make a lot of improvement to the group. Obviously, we're not where we aspire to be. We've got the salary cap flexibility to do it, and we added a roster player back in the trade with Carolina that will help our team. He's been a good NHL player. This is in his 4th full year now, or 3rd full year after coming up with Arizona. And we know what he brings to the table, so it was important for us to add that in this whole process as well, which we were happy to. And we're going to go into the summer now with about $12 million in cap space to improve on certain slots. They don't have to be allocated to certain positions. We can improve our positions of our team with that throughout the summer. So we need to continue to improve it. The salary cap will be going up. We've got our plan set for the summer, and we've got more assets now to get involved in conversations that we couldn't get ourselves involved with when it comes to trades for younger players, and that was our goal here exiting the deadline.
Rob? Kyle, you mentioned last time you spoke about you didn't think it would need to be sort of a longer term to get the team back to competing for championships. How what you've been able to do at this deadline, does that play into it?
I think when standing up here and giving a timeline on anything, I think it's what everybody wants, and I think it wouldn't be proper to do because that's what immediately everybody clings to. Our goal is every day is to make the group is to optimize it and improve it as best we can. We're lucky to have a group of players in there. They're fiercely competitive, so that means they're unhappy with me on a day like yesterday when you move somebody from the group, and it's my duty to continue to improve our team there day in, day out.
How the people you acquired yesterday.
Oh, sorry. Well, bunting will help right away. Yeah, bunting will help. I thought you were asking about for like the timeline on a whatever you want to call it. Those are the things everyone clings to, what you call it and how long. And our goal is just to improve our team every day, improve our current day roster, improve our prospects base, and do so while improving our draft capital. And so we're trying to do that at the same time as we talked about when I first came in. The players coming in, bunting will help right away. We'll have a stronger group. I mean, obviously with Jake on injured reserve, bunting will make the team stronger tomorrow. And then Ponomarev, he's been right on the cusp the whole year. He was called up with Carolina. We'll assign him to Wilkes at the start. just to get him acclimated into our system. But I would expect that at some point here and down the stretch, he'll get a good run with us, and then we expect him to challenge. I don't think anything is guaranteed, but we expect him to challenge and be on the roster going into next year. Koivunen, he is, he's had an excellent year. It was a guy that, going back to the 2021 draft, that, when I was in Toronto, we had highly touted in our process here going through this. It was one of their players that we had targeted very highly. And he's had a great year with Karpat. We've obviously, with their organization, we have a player there, so there's a little bit more attention paid to it, but especially on those teams, we were paying attention to all their prospects. He's just gotten better and better as the year's gone on, makes such a high impact, highly competitive and highly skilled, which seems to be the mix that fits here best. And so he's signed, he's loaned over there. He'll, once their season ends, if he's not going to be in their national team mix, which I suspect he will be for Finland, then we would bring him to Wilkes-Barre and get him acclimated. But otherwise, we'll give him a full run and expect him to contend for the roster next year. But at the same time, transitioning to North America, if he needs time, we'll get it all ramped up in Wilkes-Barre for him. And then Cruz Lucius, he's coming off his second season, near the end of his second season now at Wisconsin as a sophomore, where he's near a point a game. And he went in as a true freshman last year, so he's been someone that they've gone. We have a member of their old coaching staff on our pro staff, and we have a player there in Daniel Latch. So we've seen them a lot. He's gotten better and better as the years gone on. Made a great impact in a tough conference in the Big Ten. So all three of them in combination, we're happy with. And Cruz will, that's a great coaching staff and program at Wisconsin. So we'll have conversations with him and his people at the end of the year, but suspect he'll return to Wisconsin. And then turn pro in the subsequent seasons.
Kyle, first, just to be clear, you don't have any of pending transactions that are still waiting?
No, yes, sorry.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And as far as the players you did acquire from Carolina, the prospects, what went into agreeing to those players as opposed to perhaps maybe some of their more prominent prospects, as well as the conditions on the draft picks?
Sure. Well, Koivunen, we have ranked extremely high in their prospect pool. I think in trades of this nature, if you're going to acquire somebody's who they would rate as their own number one or number two prospects, those generally come with players with longer term on their deals, not rentals. I mean, we had started out to, we're always aiming for that, but Koivunen was one of the players that we had targeted, just in our evaluations and our internal way that we go through it, our scouting process and our process of evaluating guys. He was one of the players that was in that mix. I understand if perhaps he's not as common over here. He doesn't play in North America, doesn't play major junior hockey or college hockey, and is playing pro there and having a great year. But I get that, and it's up to us to develop him and show that. The draft pick stuff was, we could not take the prospects and maybe move the picks up a little bit, but on the initial pick, it was their own second or moving to their first, and our view of it was, with the way that if you look at the standings down, the way it projects out, we could lock in that positioning by going from their first to Philly's second, which they owned from a previous trade. And then the additional pick was just at the very end, just to put it over the top on their end with an additional prospect. So that was the way that the way that all played out. We going into it, most of these trades are, three-pronged with mostly draft picks, or two draft picks to the team and then an additional to a broker to retain it. With where we're at, we're happy to get an NHL player in the deal, the draft pick, which will be, in the 50, in the 45 to 60 range for sure, potentially up to the late 30s, and then the three prospects. So that was our process in going through it. And we stacked that up against all the offers that were there and decided it was by far the best and to move ahead with it. Yeah.
Three more, Justin.
Kyle, what did conversations with Mike Sullivan look like over the last couple of days as things intensified leading into today? And how did you kind of navigate plotting your course with respect to the deadline while also just keeping him appraised of your intentions?
I think especially with the coaching staff at this stage in the summer, it's different because they're not deeply engrossed each day in the goings on of the players and the team and the system. So the summer it's a lot easier, I think, to in last summer we had Mike and the staff sit in on all of our decision making and our evaluations and so on. This time of the year, we're in a playoff race, so they're deeply ingrained in trying to. We've got injuries; they're getting other guys up to speed. We've got new guys coming in. We're trying everything we can to keep ourselves in the mix. And so, with Sully, it was conversations wherever we could at night or in the morning about where we were at. And Mike's been here a long time, so he's like the players. When you make the decision to remove a member of the group that's hugely popular and contributes in such a great way, nobody's happy about it, right? And I wouldn't want it any other way. I wouldn't want them ever to be happy about those things. So that's part of this job, and it's part of their job to be upset when those things happen. So.
As a follow-up to your response to Seth about the rentals versus guys on longer-term deals, did you ever get close with Carolina or any other prospective teams on a trade and sign with Jake? And the follow-up to that is, how close did you guys ever come? How deep in the calendar did you take negotiations to keep Jake here?
Yeah, so we never entertained that conversation. It wasn't anything that was brought up. I mean, there was a few teams that mentioned they might like to speak with his people about it, but in the end wasn't a necessity to getting a deal done, or was never presented as something that would improve a deal, so we didn't go down that path. With regards to our situation with Jake, I think at the beginning of the year, and I think it's more, I think Jake and his representative, I don't find it ever, from when the team talks about it, I don't think it ever goes well. So from my view of it, we made an attempt prior to the season, and then from that point on, I think it was just my decision to give you that view, to always keep our positioning open and to keep our options open. So the way that I have to look at it is, do I believe in the group? Yes, I do. I think we showed that in the summer, trying to improve it every way we can. We can argue about the success of those transactions and moves, and that's fine. But once it starts, I have to always keep our positioning and options open. That's my job, to take care of the long term of the group. And when we couldn't get to that point, and then I don't blame them for if they think like, oh, maybe we should have gone further. I think Jake deserves all that he gets. So if there's any blame to go on that, I would take it myself. But I viewed it at that point as, once we got to a certain level, that we had to then go through the year and see the way that the year went. In the event that we were in the spot that we're in, or we had a lot of injuries and we weren't in the mix, that we would have the ability to move either Jake or others to begin to recoup some assets. So, I mean, I don't expect people to agree with it. He's a very popular player in the room, in the community. I think in this position, you have to make these types of decisions knowing that they're not going to be popular to anybody, and that's part of the job. It can be lonely, and a lot of people can be upset at you a lot as you go along, but you still have to make the decisions that you think are best for the group, regardless of how they're perceived, and do what's right for the Penguins.
Kyle, do you think that Jake's injury impacted his trade value in any way?
No, it didn't come up in any discussions. I think the only thing that impacts the value at this time is it's a rental player, and that's really all that impacts value. So I think there's what you would expect based on his contribution to the Penguins versus the fact that there's 20 games left in the season and then playoffs. So there's not a lot of, if you look at the history of it, there's not a lot of teams that are willing to expend, particularly what they would view as their top prospects. Yeah. Perfect. Okay. Thanks, everybody.